But then I met a young man. His name was Potter. I fell in love. He lighted up my life. With that, Potter and I spent a lot of time together. We talked about different things and things of interest, politics. You see, he was a school teacher. That affair that we had lasted for a while, and then he had to rush off to the war. There he died in Milwaukee in a training camp. I was sad and grieved, but I had to continue to do my studies, and there I did. I continued to study. I spent 2 years in New Jersey. But these studies came about as a result of the fact that I heard during my childhood about a young Florence Nightingale, she was called. That's when I knew what I wanted to be in life, a nurse. I studied every ology you can think about, including zoology. I was well informed. In 1870, at the age of 25, I attended the University in Michigan. There I did my medical studies. And you know, when you go into a college where men dominate, it wasn't easy for a black woman like me, or any woman at all at that time. The exams were hard, and it became hard because these men, sometimes, you know, you want to just give them a drop kick. These men decided that they would do everything in their power to keep these young women out, including myself. And there was a teacher there, a professor, who made it really hard for us. Tell you what he did. Those exams were oral exams. And you know what the exams were in? Greek. Now that was a challenge, wasn't it? I could still remember some of the Greek words. I remember the professor said, what did he say again? Aye. And I said, Daxe. Now don't ask me anymore because I don't remember, it was a long time ago. But we did those exams in Greek and they were phenomenal. All the ladies passed with extension. We succeeded. I became Dr. Kate Lency as a result of entering into that university. My qualifications at that time brought me to an institution in Battle Creek. There I was in charge of the nurses, and they can all see my vision of health. You see, most of them wore these tight corsets that some of them died as a result of wearing them in the first place. And what really had me upset is that most of these Adventist women did the same thing. They would wear these things that crushed their organs. I spoke out against it and tried to teach them the best way to present themselves in the form of dress, as you can see the way I am dressed today. Loose-fitting clothing that don't snuggle or hug your body to the point where your organs are not able to breathe. In 1891, there were some medical students that were going off to South Africa. And 4 years after them, I joined them, the first black woman to go to South Africa in the missionary field. And there we also continued to teach and educate the people there on health and healthful living. That continued, however, until 1899. And 1899, I was 57 at that time. And there I served at the Colorado Sanitarium. I continued my medical ministry and devoted the rest of my life to teaching others in the nursing field. It was beautiful to serve for Jesus, to be an instrument in his hand. I am proud to have walked those streets serving Jesus. And I hope, and as a result of hearing that Jesus Christ is not only for ministers, it's for everyone. And we should be determined to teach Jesus wherever we go. It is sad that I leave you now. I die March 30th, 1923.
Next we have Shyla Zagira, and following Shyla is Orlando Patterson.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sister Marcina said, I'm ready, but I am trying to be ready. Okay, then. Who am I? I am Annie Rebecca Smith. I was born March 16, 1828. I am early American Seventh-day Adventist hymnist. I was the sister of Adventist pioneer Uriah Smith. I wrote 10 hymns in the current Seventh-day Adventist hymnal in 1941, and in 1985, I have 3 hymns, which is now in SDA hymnal. I was the 3rd child of the 4 children, and I am the only daughter. Samuel and Rebecca Spalding is my parents, and I was born in New Hampshire, West Williston. It was on Sunday, March 16, 1822. I was 10 years old when I accepted Jesus as my personal Savior. About Millwright Adventist. I was 16 years old when I experienced the great disappointment of October 22, 1844. From there, I lost interest in Adventist teachings and I pursued my occupation of studying and teaching. From there, I went in Boston to continue my education. Between 1844 and 1855, I taught in 7 district schools. And at Charleston Seminary, I trained to be a teacher in oil painting and in French. In Boston, I met Joseph Bates. Joseph Bates is one of the Adventist pioneers. He encouraged me to attend the meeting that he was conducting. From there, the spark of my interest in Sabbatarian Adventist movement started again. I worked also in Review and Herald. I met James White. He was a talented writer. My eyesight was not sufficient as a copy editor, but I accepted the position. It was in Saratoga Springs, New York, but from that moment, my health is not good. I have my health issues. For 3 years and a half, I contributed 45 articles in Review and Herald and Youth Instructor. My love life. Now it's interesting for the Pathfinders, my love life. I met John Nevin Andrews in a review office. During this time, I developed a romance with him, but my relationship failed because he chose Angeline Stevens instead of me. I got broken-hearted. As for Ellen G. White, that is one of the cause of my death because I got depressed, disappointed. But the other reason is I got sick. I got tuberculosis. I returned home to my parents and then from there, it was July 25, 1855. In New Hampshire, I passed away. But before I died, I wrote hymns and poetry. Some hymns authored Awake, Awake, Now My Life, but 3 songs in our hymnals now. I Saw One Weary, we can find it in hymn number 441. First 3 stanzas. The first stanza, I refer it to Joseph Bates. Why? Because God uses him to convert me on my faith. Second stanza, it refers to James Springer White because he set a good example to me. And the third, to my love of my life, John Nevin Andrews, because he was the first missionary to be sent by the church from North America. The other song in hymnal, it is found in hymn number 439, How Far From Home. This song is based from Isaiah 21, verse 11 and 12, and from Hebrews 11, verse 14. But I am inviting my fellow Master Guide trainees to come up here to sing with me this song, How Far From Home. And I invited the Pathfinder Akeisha to be our pianist. Can I...
What number is it? I saw one wearing. How far from home, right?
Oh, okay then. The piano is not working.
Good evening, everyone. My character in this heritage presentation is James White. James White, I am considered to be one of the most dedicated worker in the Seventh-day Adventist movement. I, James White, was born in Palmyra, Maine, on August the 4th, 1821. And ever since my birth, I had a desire to serve the Lord. I grew up as a young man, gravitated towards spiritual things. And at the age of 21, I attended a camp meeting in Maine. And I was so impressed with the Millerite preachers that I became a part of the Millerite movement. At that time, at the age of 21, I was a school teacher. And being so impressed with the Millerite movement, I decided to give up my teaching job and to become a lay lecturer. I was considered to be one of those lesser known lay preachers or lay lecturer during those days. But I was so driven by the Spirit of the Lord that I went out to preach the second coming of Jesus, believing that Jesus would have come 1844, October 22nd. And in my first lecture, I found over 60 unrepentant sinners. And after giving my first lecture, I needed help to baptize them and to bring them into the faith, the movement. Later on, I gave a 6 weeks lecture, and over 1,000 souls decided to join the Millerite movement. I was becoming very famous in the Millerite movement. And then October 22nd came, 1844. We anticipated the second coming of Jesus. But Jesus did not come. It was a great disappointment for all of us. There were some who got discouraged and they left the movement, while others believed that the date was wrong and that we need to go back to the Bible, because Jesus is coming soon. It is during that time that a young lady by the name of Ellen G. White was brought to my attention, that she was receiving visions from the Lord. And I was so impressed that I went to listen to her. And when I heard the message that she had received of the Lord, I was one of them who confirmed that indeed the Lord was revealing himself through her. I became attracted to the messages that she was sharing. And so wherever she went, along with her sister and a friend Louis, I would follow them because my determination was to serve the Lord. And as I followed them around, gossip filled the air that Ellen and myself, we were going together. I did not know if she was considering love at that time. But because of the gossip that was going around, and yes, I had an interest in Ellen, even though I did not make it known to her, we decided to get married on August the 30th, 1846. And Ellen became my wife, and the gossip disappeared. It is not peer pressure. I had loved her. But I'm not sure if she was considering that. As a matter of fact, it was Ellen who said, if the gossip is going to distract people from the message, it would be better for us to get married and to preach the gospel. And so they got married, and we continue as a team. In 1849, I became impressed. To get the message out, we needed to write some pamphlets. And so I started my first pamphlet, and I named it The Present Truth. Today, the church still embraces that paper, even though I am gone for so many years, because the name was later changed to the Adventist Review. And now we are talking about the Adventist Review. I labored on that paper tirelessly. And out of that first publication evolved what we now call the publishing ministry, that we publish books all over the world. One of my greatest assets in the publishing ministry was when I was joined by John N. Andrew. He was a brilliant scholar, and he helped to edit and to write many of the papers. In 1863, gave birth to the Seventh-day Adventist Church. We came together as a group and we prayed. In 1863, we did not want to name the group a church. We preferred the name movement because we believe that in calling the name a church in 1863, that we would become like the other traditional churches. And we want to be distinct with a special message for the last day. So I was instrumental, along with my wife, Ellen G. White, with the name of the church, and of course, in the organization of the church. I worked so hard in the publishing ministry and in the church that in 1865, I got a stroke. Many believe that I would have died, but my wife, Ellen, prayed for me and nursed me back to some level of health. In 1874, I became the president of the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. I worked so hard, unceasingly, until I worked myself to death. On August 6, 1881, I was laid to rest. God bless you.
Next, we're going to have Philomena, Nadia, and followed by Patience. And then last but not least, Joe. Marie.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to present to you myself. My name is Martha. That's my when I was young time. Sorry, I trust to gas up myself. My name is Martha Byington. Byington? I was the oldest daughter of the John and Catherine Byington. Some people have described me as having a farmer's daughter appearance. This probably means that I was a very healthy-looking girl, tried to eat and only foods that were only for me, and tried to obey the laws of health. I was the oldest daughter of John Byington, and he is one of the first president of the conference, 1863, with the help of Brother James White. When I was school age, I was attended the country school, and I was homeschooled by my parents, Catherine and James and John. I had a good sense of what was right and wrong. I possessed a sense of humor, and I was a fun-loving person, as well as a very determination person. I could sing and play piano very well. I really enjoy life. I love the Lord very much, and I was taught with my parents to honor God with all my heart. When I was 19 years old, my dad, John Byington, donated the school and his service, and I became a teacher at the age of 19. I became the first school teacher of the Advent movement. My first school was held in the parlor of home. In this room, I had 17 students. The school in Bridge, New York, was started so that the young people could be trained to serve the Lord and prepare them to be workers of Him. Later, the 17 students became missionaries to foreign lands. In the Adventists in Bridge were all alive today. They would be able to see what the sacrifices they made to start this. This school was really the beginning of the worldwide system of school run by the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Later, I, Martha, married to George Amadon in Michigan. There I wrote articles for the church papers, Review and Herald. I was also the first president of the Dorcas Society, which we are now called the Community Service, the ADRA. When I celebrated my 100 years birthday, the reporter asked me, what was the most important thing, the most useful in the modern invention? I said, the electricity. Why? Because when I was young, I've been using the candles. Reading, anything I could do is always handling the candles. And it's the first time I see how the lamp was invented. And thanks be to God, with their invention, the people are so wise and the invention has electricity. That's the number one invention that I could see. I told now that a little girl who was always loved to read, learned how to see the difference, that how the darkness and become light through electricity. And since then, I was working so much together with with the ADRA movement, we do the helping and mending the clothings, helping the people to give the poor, keeping the ADRA movement so well. And now we are an international, worldwide help to those are disasters, especially. And and I was being, without even I don't want to, they brought me to the to my place where I'm laying now in Michigan. And this is I live for 103 by doing the service of the Lord. It's not that easy. That's why they remember me, whom I love to serve the Lord. To be, it's not even your age. You can't even imagine. How can you extend your arms, even your name? Just say, this is from Martha, and they will see who you are. So she's living in her legacy, 103, by serving the Lord, especially our church. And I thank you.
Hi. So, if you had to go online and look about for information on me, you will not find that much. But let me tell you a bit of who I am. I was born in Vernon, Vermont, where I joined the Methodist Church. I then later, don't ask me how many years, because unfortunately, it's so long ago, I don't remember how many years has passed. But I decided to move to Verona, New York, after marrying my husband, Amroy Oakes. But unfortunately, he passed away. It is very sad. I'm sorry, okay? But here's the good part. I kept his last name. So in 1837, I moved to Washington, New Hampshire, because I wanted to be close to my daughter, Rachel Delight. I named her after me. Okay. The reason why I moved to Washington was to be close to my daughter, like I said, because she was a teacher nearby. So, I was part of the Millerite movement. So I was there when the Great Disappointment happened. So, I tried to present my views on the 7-day Sabbath. But unfortunately, everyone was more focused on the second coming of Christ and paid more attention to the Seventh-day Baptist literature. But I was able to convince one person, Frederick Wheeler, to understand the teachings, and he preached his first sermon on the 7-day Sabbath on March 16, 1844. One Sunday, while we were having communion, Frederick Wheeler said, "To all those who confess communion with Christ in this service as it is, should be ready to obey God and keep his commandments in all things." Later that day, I went up to him and told him, "Frederick Wheeler, I almost rose out of my seat and said that you better push the communion table back and cover it with a cloth until you are ready to keep all the commandments, especially the fourth commandment, which is, does everyone know the fourth commandment? Could we repeat it all? Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all things. But the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, nor thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord blesses the sea and all that in them is, and rested on the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it." So, like I said, I experienced a great disappointment in 1844 We waited all day from morning to evening. Unfortunately, Jesus Christ did not show up. But after going back and reading more on the Bible and understanding God's word, I joined a small group of Adventists. Later, I married once more Nathan T. Preston and moved away. So in my last year of life, I found harmony with the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and I passed away in 1868. My name is Rachel Oakes. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I was born on March the 4th of 1874. That was a very long time ago, to a very poor family. Poverty was so much in my family. And so I used to work at the family farm, which was 160 acres. I worked there from the age of 8 to help my family to fight the poverty and also to protect my family. Where I lived, I was always threatened by death all the time. So I was known to be always carrying a revolver where I went, because I didn't want anyone messing around with me in the neighborhood. So I wanted to be really prepared before someone can come on my way. But because I was always eager to learn, to know, and to understand, so I taught myself. So the opportunity came for me that I had to work for my neighbors, who were white neighbors, who they had the opportunity to go to school, to learn and to write. Because I wanted to learn and write, to write and read. So I was gonna work for them in exchange of them teaching me on how to write and read. So I went to this family, the Williams family. I was there. I learned everything fast that was happening. I learned how to do laundry with them, to clean the house, to mop the floor, and all house chores. I did very well, and Mrs. Williams was so impressed. So she helped me to start reading the ABCs and learning how to write. So I started writing. I couldn't stop. At night, when I went home, I would write and read. Write. Even on earth, sometime I could find myself writing all the time because I wanted to learn to write and read. Because of my eagerness to learn to read, I had to request for a magazine that was being distributed in the area. And some of the people that were distributing the literature were the Adventists. So I managed to get their literature. I learned a lot about Adventism. I got so interested. I wanted to know more. However, like as I said, the struggle was real in my family. It was real, it was hard. I wanted to purchase a Bible, but I didn't have the money to buy the Bible. So I worked even extra hard to pick cotton. So the money for the cotton that I picked, I purchased my first Bible. I was so excited. When I read the Bible, that's when I learned about the investigative judgment. I wanted to share this information with my family, but my mom was not happy about that. She told me, it's either you choose to stay with the family or you go with your faith. I kept praying, hoping that my mom was going to change. She didn't. I decided to leave. I found my way in Tennessee. where I got baptized in 1893. My old friends helped me to go to school, and I was enrolled at Mount Vernon Academy. Later, I went to Bagel Creek School of Nursing. So they are graduated with a nursing degree. And also, at the same time, Dr. Harvey John was so very much impressed about my work, what I was doing. So he selected me to be the representative at the Bagel Creek General Conference. It was this time when I felt so impressed that I got to India as a missionary. And I was going to be the first black missionary as a Seventh-day Adventist in India. My time there was good. I decided to go back to Mississippi, where I was born. When I got there, I opened a school and a church. I was so very much influential individual. I was known as in the black history of the African Seventh-day Adventist as one of the legendary in the area. So I helped a lot in the schools where our students were struggling to help, because I knew how struggle was. I could relate. I knew how it was to struggle. So it was one of my passions to do that. Then in 1992, I became the first president of the National Colored Teachers Association of the Seventh-day Adventist. I worked so well, everybody liked me. And I was so much influential at the Oakwood Academy College, at the Academy College. So I worked there for a while. And nearly half a century, everybody loved me all my time when I was there. Until June the 3rd, when I died in 1972. What is my name? Thank you. That's my presentation for you.
Good evening, church. I am Uriah Smith, born in May 3, 1832. I'm a gifted church leader, a teacher, writer, editor, poet, and hymn writer, and also invention and engraver. My family is a Millerite Adventist movement. At age 12 years old, I experienced the 1844, the Great Disappointment. Around that time, my left legs had infected. So, to be amputated above the knee. That time, I'm not interested in the religion. I attended Phillips Academy in Exeter, New Hampshire. In 1852, my sister Annie connected with the Sabbath keeping Adventist. I follow his lead. I attended Sabbath keeping in Washington, New Hampshire. In that year, before the end of the month, I am joining the Sabbath-keeping Adventist. In short, I baptized in Adventist. following year, my sister Annie and I joined the Adventist Review and Herald in office in Rochester, New York. Now, Adventist Review. The review publishing my 35,000 words poem, The Warning of Voice of Time and Prophecy. After 2 years, my sister Annie died of tuberculosis, TB. At age 23, I became the editor of the Adventist Review, moved to Battle Creek, Michigan. After 2 years, I married Harriet Steven, sister to the John Nevin Andrews' wife, Angeline. I took a years of leave in Adventist Review. John Andrews Nevin edited in my place. But after 6 months, I joined again to James White and back in Adventist Review. The time I invented and patented my artificial legs. Also, I invented also the school desk with improved chair. In the General Conference forms accusations, and I am the first elected secretary and held for the 5 times same position, and also served for a year as a General Conference treasurer. I probably best known author of thoughts on Daniel and the Revelation and more. In 1874, I ordained to the gospel of ministry. I preached the first graduations of the Battle Creek College. I am a pastor of many isolated Adventists. I visited also Europe and Middle East. I am walking to the review office in Adventist Review. I had a stroke and died on March 6, 1903 at the age of 71. At the end of my story. Thank you.
Well, that's the end of the presentations. Would anyone like to ask any of the presenters a question or any question? I think some people. Wait. He's going to check up front.
Oh, fine. Okay, Dr. Kate Lindsay. I was impressed with your presentation. And can you put away your notes? Because I want to ask you 2 questions. You gave a lot about your history and your family and everything. So my first question is about You live in a log cabin, right? In the woods. Okay. At night, you had to bolt the cabin door. Was that true? Why was the reason you have to bolt the cabin door? And can you name the animals that were fighting to get into your cabin?
But at night, the coyotes would come and try to get in, and we would have to bar the doors so they wouldn't come inside.
Only the coyotes?
Well, you know, there were all kind of different wild animals.
I want to name them. Only the coyotes?
That's all I could remember right now. This was long ago.
Okay. There were the wolves and the panthers.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes, those. Exactly.
All right. My next question is, how many children did your parents have?
There were eight
How many
siblings. I had 8 siblings.
Okay, and what happened to some of them?
Well, what I could remember was that I know I stayed with them until the last one was 16 years old. Okay? And then I left my family. But I don't remember exactly every details of it.
Okay,
But I know that there were eight.
Some of them didn't survive. How many didn't survive? How many passed away?
I can't remember, actually.
What are the 8?
It's been a long time. I don't remember.
Okay, 4. All right, thank you very much. I'm satisfied.
James White, will you please stand? Well, you know, the rumors were at the time as well that your heart was really with Diane when Ellen was after you. And can you, that's not really my question. I was going to ask you to explain to us how you got back to Diane, but that's beside the point. James, from what I read, it seems as though, although you and Ellen worked tirelessly for the movement, that you had a very difficult time financially. And even at the wearing of patched clothing, that you dedicated all the funds that you had to the printing work. Can you explain us a little bit about that? How difficult was it, and how you managed during those lean years?
Well, the Lord did provide by the brothers and sisters of the movement who saw our needs, and of course, through the Lord, supply the needs. When we started the publishing ministry in 1849, and we were inspired by God to spread the message through the printed pages, and we did not have any money. I decided to cut hay, and it was while cutting hay to get money to print the pamphlets so that the pamphlets could be circulated that I fell sick, and my wife got a vision from the Lord to say that if I continue to cut hay to produce the printing pages to spread the message, that I would die early. And so it was a sacrificial work, but the Lord provided for us during those days.
Thank you. I'm satisfied. We'll get around to Diane another time. Yeah.
I have a question for Kate. Kate Lindsay? I don't think I remembered what university you went to. Where did you go to school? What university you studied at? Thank you. Thank you.
I don't think you mind me sitting down. a little bit last presentation, the Anna, one who represented Anna. Anna Knight. I just want you to briefly tell me, you didn't have money, but how did you make it through?
Like I said, I was working in the farm, the family farm. So while I was there, I was also working for the white neighborhood who had the money to help us, me and my family, to survive.
The question is for Annie Smith. Right here. Okay, so you accepted Christ at the age of 10, and at the age of 16 you experienced the great disappointment, and you, in your love life, you told us that it didn't go well with Andrews. Mm-hmm. Maybe you forgot to tell him that you love him every night, or when you when you separated and went your ways. And every time you had to run away or leave whatever you're doing and go to something else. Like you went back to teaching, and when it didn't go well with Andrews, he had tuberculosis.
Yes.
Okay. So my question to you is, Shaila, after having read all this, how do you handle disappointment in your life today?
So you're asking Annie Smith, how did, you're asking me as Annie Smith?
As Shaila.
No, I'm confused. So you're asking me for the great disappointment, how I handled it. Oh, in my life today. Okay, at first, how I handled it. It's so. I learned from the past Adventist pioneers. They were young, they got disappointed, but the good side of it, they didn't stop the faith from it. So if I'm going to apply it in my life today, even though I got stumbled, even though there's a disappointment, I am still here. I still have my faith burning, and I keep my fire burning so that others will be inspired also, that others will be blessed, that God will be blessed me, and others will be blessed through me.
Amen.
This one is for Anna Knight. You talk about working on the family 160 acres farm, and it was a never-ending struggle to keep the land productive. Now, as an 8-year-old, what was some of your responsibility on this farm?
Okay. Apart from working at our family farm, I also had to take care of the gardening. Also, I had to feed the chicken. I also had to, what else did I do? I'm forgetting the third. I was fetching the water. Yes, I'm sorry.
This is for Uriah Smith. Other than holding as one of the, serving as the editor for the Review and Herald over 50 years, there were 2 other positions that you had during your lifetime. Could you name me even one of them?
In my time, just first, my sister Annie is the editor of the.
In the general conference.
And
Let me
you're
break
the
it
first.
down a little more specific. For the general conference,
Yeah,
you
I'm
held.
the first elected of the secretary of the first conference. They
Mhm.
formed that in the, by James White, and James White is the president of the time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you remember the other one?
And then John Byton is also the president of the conference.
What position?
No, what your position? You had two.
The position of the next one is the 1 year, the treasurers of the general conference.
Yes.
Right on.
Thank you.
Okay, my question is for Rachel Oakes. The first question is, when you confronted the minister about keeping the Sabbath day, what was the occasion surrounding
Communion.
Like, when you confronted the minister about
Mhm.
keeping the Sabbath day, what setting was it in?
It was, it was after communion, like at his house or someone's house. Is that what
Okay,
you're asking?
whose house was it?
No. Farnsworth. What? I don't know his first name. William Farnsworth.
Okay, I'll accept it. Okay. Also, my other question is a true or false question. So, true or false, you accepted all the teachings of the SDA church throughout your whole life.
False. It's false because it's only in the last year of her life that she came in harmony with Seventh-day Adventist teaching.
All right.
You were a leader of the Dockers Society. What did the society do to help the community then?
Say it again, miss.
What was the what did the community do? What did the community do to help what did the society do to help the community?
Oh yeah, we do collect some of the goods, such as like canned goods, anything that we can help one another. We're mending some clothings, and we give it to those who are less fortunate, the disasters. Sometimes there's a flooding, they need some food, they need some shelter. We do use it in our church community, most oftentimes, especially the ladies.
Said you were sick and that you mentioned that you got better, but you didn't say how you got better.
I did.
I mean, when you went to write when you were asked.
Ah, okay. Because through prayer and anointing, I got better. Ellen White and James White, the pioneers, Joseph Bates, through prayer and anointing. But at the age of 27, I passed away.
Guess there are no more questions? Okay. Can we please give our participants a round of applause, please? Can all the participants now stand turn to the audience and give a bow. Are you happy now it's over? It wasn't so bad, was it? No, it wasn't. You saw, you saw the grace. I know it can be nerve-wracking, but then tell me something. What you learned from this, did you know it before? So you can say it was a beautiful learning experience. Now, no one can tell you anything about Annie Smith, Rachel Oates, Kate Lindsay, Anna Knight, Martha Amandon, Uriah Smith, James White, Rachel Oates. Nobody can tell you anything. If you hear someone talk about these people now, you can relate to what they're speaking about. And there are other pioneers that you can learn about because the heritage is sweet. You know where you came from, but you don't know where you really, really came from and how far we came from, because others set the pace for us. They paved the road that we are traveling on today. We have freedom now to preach, but they were afraid to call it a church. It was a movement, but now today we have church. So when the song says, "How far from home?" we have come a long way, and we need to really praise God for our heritage.
I wanted to say that something that I've noticed that there was, one of the things that I did notice because I went through it, there was no timing. I wondered what had happened. There was timing? It's because I didn't know, I didn't see. Thank you, I'm sorry.
Each participant had 5 to 10 minutes to present.
Oh, okay, fine, I didn't.
Okay. I just want to thank everyone for coming. And I would like to present the evaluators.
I wanted to know what pastor learned as being a pastor.
Pastor, you're on the floor. As a pastor, we know that you know a lot about church history, but did you learn anything new?
As I went through some of my books to prepare for the presentation on James White, I discovered that James and Ellen had a normal relationship as wife and husband. A matter of fact, they had their differences and they had their quarrels, if you want to call it that, right? And there were times when, because she being a prophet and he being an ordinary leader in the church, that sometimes she would want to tell James to do something, and he would say, if that is not coming from the Lord, then I will not obey or do that. You have to give me some proof that it is the Lord who tells you to tell me this, you know. And also, I'm looking back, the commitment and dedication that the early pioneers had for the work. We are doing stewardship now. They gave their all, even without money, right? Because when James started out, he started out, the commitment and dedication that they had. It is said in the history of James White that even when he started out,
he didn't have money to pay, to you'd say, rent a horse. And so he borrowed a horse, he patched a saddle, and with the clothes that he had, they were worn and they had holes. And he uses one material to patch his suit and trousers to go out to preach. And for us today, we have cars, we have bus transit service that will take you up at your gate and take you to the next stop to some, and we just sit back. I am telling you, it is something else. And the dedication and commitment that they had, because they wanted to call it a movement and not a church, because as you see, church has become complacent. It's as if that drive to spread the message, we have lost it. The church is now slowing down. The rapid speed in which the message was carried has been halted now, even though we have all the modern technology at our disposal.
And I think that's because we do not remind our children where we came from. They know they have it all, but they don't know where we came from. Our evaluators this evening, when I call your names, please stand and let everyone see you. Right. We have Arnold, pronounce your last. Love you? No, okay, Arnold, love you, because I do. Africans, they have the weirdest spellings of names, and then they have, yes, it's original, and like tidings, you know, blessed be the tidings, you know, that binds. But one day, I will get them pronounced. Then we have Leona Peters. And all our evaluators today, I think, are master guides. So we have been there. We've done that. She's a master guide at heart. That's okay. She's coming right behind you, Pastor. We have Tidings. I'm not sure if that's a first or a last name. That's the first name. What is your last name, Tidings?
Nube.
Okay. And then we have Ginny. Arauz. They know. I know. But I saw it spelled so many different ways, I'm not sure which one is the correct one. Then we have Patricia Dennison. Thank you. Jean Bergen. She's African? Were you evaluating? Okay. Then we have Kadisha McGee. I think she's the youngest master guide right now in this building.
Seems so, yeah.
Amen. Saul Mashando. We don't go anywhere without Saul. Even Master Guy Camp, it's not fun if Saul is not there. Sorry then, Saul, I'm sorry. We have Hillary Blake. This is Kadisha's mother. Oh, that's that clique that Michael was talking about? Oh, have mercy. How come you don't have a clique in your name? Then we have Donna Cox Levy. Elizabeth Charles, Petty Mabina, got that one. Mabena. Yeah. What did I say? Same thing, only different. We have Faith McQueen. And yes, that's Sister Grieve's sister. Doesn't she look like she doesn't she look like her? Yes, she does. You didn't know, Pastor? Oh man, they're one of a kind. And then we have, last but not least, our coming up behind Master Guide in Training, Diane Patterson. Diane, you should take the program because you could have been, right. And what were you waiting for? His uniform. You can't wear pastor's uniform? Don't admire it. Get your own. Okay. And then I have someone, this lady right here. She has been working tirelessly and endlessly with the Master Guides. Isabel Julian. Even when we feel like quitting, not with Sister Julian. And all the evaluators please do not leave with their evaluation sheets. We just need you to pass them back to either myself or Sister Julian. All right, thank you very much. And I want to thank Brother Steele and Panzita, and I want to thank the Pathfinders that Philomena brought with her. The supporters. I want to thank Shyla for bringing, I didn't know your children until today. Yes. Where is your husband? He just looks different with a hat on then. That's 'cause I don't think I've seen him with a hat. Well, I thank you for coming, and I want to thank Romerda. And she's one of the Pathfinders here at LNL. And Ariel, L'Oreal, thank you for coming. Lorianne, thank you for coming. Vanetta, thank you. Vanetta is also in Master Guide in Training. And really, guys, I thank you so much for coming this evening to support us. I enjoyed myself and our technicians. I want to thank you. Thank Pastor Hamilton for allowing us to use the sanctuary today. And I know they have an all-night prayer meeting tonight. I wish you God's richest blessings tonight during your prayer, all-night prayer meeting. At this time, those of you also who have your binders, do not take them back home. Please hand them to Sister Julian. And